Dusk Maiden of Amnesia, or Dusk Maiden of Amnesia for us English-speaking folk, is a horror show with some romance, or romance with horror, depending how you want to look at it. The anime aired in spring 2012, animated by Studio Silverlink, based on a manga written by Maybe, yes, that is their name, published in Monthly Shonen Gangan up until September 2013. One day, Nia Teichi comes across Kanoe Yuko and ends up falling for her big time. However, he doesn't know at first that she's actually a ghost. But that doesn't stop this man. In a matter of fact, he seems very determined to get himself some of that ghost booty, as this is one of the few anime where the main character actually grows a pair, and he confesses to the girl he loves, ghost or not, way before the finale of the show. Yuko is very happy to meet a person who can see her, and actually touch her, and the two end up getting along really well. Maybe a little too well, as she keeps seducing him with her looks, and keeps throwing herself at him anytime she can. Together they attend, at least Yuko in spirit, because, well, she is a ghost, the Paranormal Investigations Club, along with club members Kanoe Kiri and Okonoge Momoe. Much to Kiri's dislike, who keeps telling Teichi a relationship between a living person and a ghost won't work out, no matter how much he tries because of the difference of, well, her being dead. Also, she might just be a little bit jealous, and rather have Teichi look at her instead. Alas, she seems to be too alive for his tastes. She is the only older person who can see her, and she happens to be a relative of Yuko, as she was once her grandmother's sister. Maybe that's why she can see her, or perhaps that's just a coincidence. And I'm not sure why this happens, or she suddenly gained a case of Chuni, but in the later episodes she just starts making JoJo poses. No idea why, she just does it, and it gets me to laugh every time. I guess I'm just that easily entertained. The other member of the club, Okonoge Momoe, is mostly just comedic relief and gets the group investigating things with the rumors she collects. However, she cannot see Yuko, just falls prey to the ghostly shenanigans Yuko likes teasing her with, and often ends up being the punchline of the joke. But with how easily she gets afraid with supernatural stuff happening, pranks or otherwise, it makes me wonder why she searched out these rumors to begin with. Maybe she's just a thrill seeker. Ghostbuster material, however, she is not. The first few episodes of the series introduces all the cast members, and the early episodes mostly consist of them attending the club, where they investigate all kinds of rumors about ghost sightings and urban legends in and around the school. And Yuko pranking the less perceptive club members, or well, Okonogi, for some giggles. Furthermore, it has Yuko and Teichi partaking in their usual romantic activities, like nighttime strolls through the empty but airy corridors of the high school, or breaking into the pool at night for some skinny dipping and gazing at the starlit sky. There is also an instance where Teichi thinks too much what her actual appearance should be, thanks to Kiri. And because of this imagination, she turns into the horrific decayed old corpse she actually is. However, he snaps out of that relatively fast, and she's back to her normal pretty self. He also ends up staring at the skeleton, and as this is basically her most naked form, Yuko gets very embarrassed about it all. I'd be more concerned that the school just leaves the skeleton in the basement, however. That seems kinda questionable if you ask me. Also, you can't forget about that mandated episode where all the girls need to wear a swimsuit, and of course the staple of high school anime, where they attend a high school festival, and they end up running a haunted house. After relative low-stakes spooky stuff happening during the first few episodes, it switches gears and it gets more serious during the school festival story. Rumors go around about a ghost named Akihito that is haunting the school and is creating incidents, and is looking to kill someone named Yuko. That will prove hard as the Yuko we know is a ghost already, so the kill aspect might prove tricky. But it turns out this was all a rumor created by a student conveniently also named Yuko, to divert bullies because of her name. When the events escalate and all the other students start getting really desperate, as you would expect, they all turn on the living Yuko instead. And they attempt to sacrifice her to appease the ghost and save themselves. Yuko, the ghost one, and Teichi end up saving her from the lynch mob just in time, and everything goes back to normal. After this, the show might as well completely change genre altogether, and changes from a supernatural mystery show to a romance drama with some horror elements. Now, if you wanted to watch the show at all at any point, I advise you to skip here to the time shown on screen, or close the video and go watch the show yourself, as I will be talking about the final episodes of the anime, and stuff will get spoiled. Alright then, with that said, sometime after the events of the school festival, Yuko and Teichi are confronted by her other half, named Shadow Yuko. The only reason Yuko has been living her own life so carefree is because she cut off all her negative emotions and memories from herself, literally, and has created another shadowy version of herself that she cannot see and not remember. Or rather, she chooses to repress those aspects of herself. But upon Teichi meeting her, she keeps thinking that he can only see her flaws she tried to repress, and she ends up forcefully forgetting about him. But this is after pushing him off a staircase, because after meeting her shadow self, her jealousy is surfacing back, thanks to him interacting with Okonogi. Yuko tries to repress her memories that she hurt him this badly and suffers from amnesia, and tries to push him away the next time they meet. However, instead of trying to forget about her, Daichi doubles down and confesses to her, which succeeds, and the dark thoughts and amnesia seem to be solved. However, the problem with Shadow Yuko continues, as she refuses to acknowledge that side of herself. Not much later, Daichi gets dragged into Yuko's memories thanks to her shadow self, the repressed memories of the last day she was alive. And he gets to experience firsthand the pain and suffering she went through, as she got chosen by the adults of the town to be a sacrifice to the gods. Because the town she was living in was suffering from a plague 6 years ago, which people thought was a curse. We get to see these events in first-person view for almost an entire episode, a unique approach that I haven't seen used much in anime, and it works surprisingly well all things considered. And it turns out that in her pain and despair in her final moments, she split herself into two personalities, the happy-go-lucky one who we all know and Daichi loves, and the shadowy side of her with all her repressed memories and emotions. Daichi, saddened by all this, ends up accepting her bad side too, saying it is too sad for one person to deal with these negative emotions. However, he gets possessed by the shadow side and makes Yuko unable to see him, and causes her to suffer flashbacks when touched. After quite literally ghosting him for a few days, where she slowly forgets all about him, and him seemingly being fine with it, Kyrie tells her to make up his mind and find a way to fix things, because this isn't like him. He succeeds, and Yuko ends up accepting her troubled past and negative side. And both halves are reunited, so they live happily ever after, right? Well, there's one episode left, so you can see where this is going. Now with both parts of her finally reunited, she is slowly passing on to the afterlife, and she keeps this a secret from Daichi, instead wanting to go on a day-long date instead. However, near the end of the date she cannot hide her slowly fading out of reality much longer, and tells Daichi to forget all about her and move on with his life. Which of course, he does not, and the last part of the episode is spent with them dealing with the slow disappearance. They find all kinds of ways to keep communicating with each other, like writing on paper when she cannot speak anymore, while she slowly fades out of existence, until she is finally gone. I find these last scenes heart-wrenching and bittersweet, as it was inevitable a romance between a human and a ghost was impossible from the get-go. Still, I can't help but feel deeply touched by it, and it brings me to tears while these events play out on screen. Which it feels a little bit like a letdown that in the last minute of the anime she reappears, and now instead of haunting the school, she is bound to Daichi, and they get their happily ever after all. At least, that's what it is for the anime, as I'm not familiar with the manga this is adapting, so I have no knowledge of the events that transpire after this story arc. It doesn't kill the story for me, however I can see it be a bit of a disappointment for other people, but I'm not holding that against the anime. There is also an OVA that got released with the 6th bundle of the DVD Blu-ray releases, which is an additional episode with a more comedic vibe to it. They even parodied their own opening by swapping out Yuko for Kyrie. The manga this anime was adapting was still being written while the show was airing, so needless to say the manga goes further than the show does. If you feel so inclined, there is more in the story for you to find out. I know that I will be checking out the manga after this, something I should have done years ago, but just forgot about, as I want to see more of these characters and see how the story ends. Overall I find the anime very enjoyable to watch, and I'm glad I rewatched this all these years later, as I mostly only remember it fondly, and I couldn't remember exactly why. It is a nice combination of horror and romance, not much seen in anime. And after rewatching the show for this video, it feels I've fallen in love with this show all over again. Or perhaps I've just fallen prey to the ghost curse. It is a shame that it never gets mentioned anymore these days, as I feel it deserves more love, just like Yuko herself. The art style has this nice 2010 feel to it, as I like to call it, or maybe that's just a feeling of nostalgia, and it still looks good all these years later. I'm quite fond of the orange colors and the dark shades used throughout this anime, giving the empty hallways sufficient eeriness to them, and the final episode that takes place in winter looks stunning. I also quite like the scenes making use of the traditional art style, that they used to tell some of the urban legends and myths with. They're quite a sight to behold and stand out whenever they get used. And there is some creativity to be found in the framing and angling of certain scenes, some reminding me heavily of anime Studio Shaft produced. For those not familiar with Studio Shaft, they are the ones who worked on shows like Bakemonogatari and the well-known Madoka Magica. And when further looking into the team of animators, I did indeed find some people that had credentials for working on Monogatari, so I wasn't that far off. I'll also praise the 10th episode, that mostly takes place from a first-person perspective, a thing you don't often see used in anime, and it works really well. The soundtrack for this series is mostly very atmospheric, and with a decent amount of nice piano music scattered across it as well. But the insert song Requiem, used at 2 points during the series, and one of them during that scene in the final episode, is hauntingly beautiful. The ending theme fits the melancholic tones of the story very well. However, the opening of the show, Quiet Jail by Konami Suzuki, has no reason to go as hard as it does. And both of these still find frequent play on my music list till this day. Finally, I would rate this anime an 8 out of 10, and award it with a minor seal of approval. As it is an anime that I've always looked back on very fondly in my mind, and upon rewatching it, it easily holds up today. I can definitely recommend this anime if you're in the mood for something spooky, something romantic, or happen to have a thing for monster girls, because ghost girls are still included in it after all. Or if you just want something spooky to watch for Halloween. The series can be watched online on the expected streaming services, or can be picked up on physical media as it got licensed in the West. It got released by Sentai Filmworks in America and MVM Entertainment in Europe. However, I got my copy 10 years ago when it was first released, so that might prove harder to get your hands on nowadays. I'm going off script now for a little bit since I'm at the end of the video. It's been a week now since I've watched the series. Well, I've been editing the video and all that. And I can't seem to get the anime out of my head somehow and I keep thinking about it. It's been a while, years maybe even, that an anime really stuck with me this much after finishing it. And that is despite me rewatching it, but it's been like 11 years so I forgot most about it. So it might as well be a new experience, I suppose. It's a weird but not unwelcome feeling, something that's not happened for years now, and I'm considering adding this show to my favorites. I did not expect coming out of rewatching the show feeling like this, as I just wanted to make a little video for the October season. If you made it to the end of this video, then thank you very much for watching, and I hope I've convinced at least 5 people to give this show a look, because I genuinely love this anime, and I wish more people would watch it. I am not really sure if I did the anime any justice with this video, but I hope I piqued some interest at least. I'm Ida and hope to see you next time. And if you happen to watch this during October, have a happy Halloween.